Fitin10 Nation, welcome to day 36. And Martina, we are officially past the halfway point. We are in the second phase, if you want to think of it that way. The second half of the challenge, obviously this goes by super fast. And as always, if you are struggling in your fitness journey, whether you're with us or not, the key is to always keep trying and keep going. And really the key to success is about being consistent with the right things. That is your, if you want, your secret to really achieving
anything in life.
Yeah, it's all about chipping away every single day, right? So, okay, Martina, today I want to talk about blood sugar management because this is something that a lot of people struggle with.
Yep.
We've had clients that are type 1, type 2 diabetic. We've had clients that are pre-diabetic. And I don't know if I mentioned this to you or not, but I've been looking at some research, and this was something that I wasn't, well, if you'd asked me, I probably would have said I'm not really sure. I think probably type 2 diabetes is probably a spectrum. Somebody who has been diagnosed as type 2 diabetic, you can reverse that just through different lifestyle means.
Indeed.
So let's talk about some of those things.
Okay.
Now, obviously, when we're talking about diabetes, we're also talking about, in particular, insulin and how the body deals with insulin or lack thereof. But there are many things we can do here that will help to reduce blood sugar levels, and as a result, help with insulin sensitivity, as well as essentially creating less stress on the pancreas, which produces insulin. But let's keep this basic for today. So, number one, what do you think is probably the first thing that comes to mind when you think about?
To my mind, exercise.
Yeah, exercise would be a great start, obviously, because through exercise or through any physical activity, even just walking, we're going to pull sugar from the bloodstream and essentially deliver it to the cells. And this is going to require at least less insulin to do. And so one thing you can do in particular, it will be a little bit more specific about this, is walk after
your meals.
Yeah, walk after every meal. So if you are somebody who is pre-diabetic or you're even type 2 diabetic, getting out and walking after each meal, doesn't have to be a long walk.
10 minutes.
Go for a brisk 10-minute walk. This is going to make a huge difference. There's a famous in the physique world, and actually now in the athletic world, there's a guy by the name of Stan Efferding, and he's been touting this for
forever.
For probably 15 years, and now it's obviously a little bit more mainstream. But getting out and walking post-meal can make a big difference. Just that one thing alone can make a big difference.
Actually, I wanted to remind you that you told my mom to bike for 10 minutes after all our meals and her meals, and then it made a difference.
Yeah, and
it was pre-diabetic, right? So.
Yeah, hopefully she will
continue with that habit.
I don't know about that, to be honest.
Sure.
Hopefully she's not watching this video. Probably not watching this video. Anyways, let's move along.
What else?
Number 2 is resistance training. So, in fact, there's a couple things with this. With the resistance training, obviously, we're building more real estate for sugar reserves. So, for those of you who don't know, but you can store sugar. Yeah. One of the biggest reservoirs for sugar is muscle mass. So the more muscle mass you have, the greater reservoir you have to store sugar. Also, with resistance training, especially really hard resistance training, working to near failure, you're going to really teach the muscle to be more insulin sensitive, which means your body doesn't have to produce as much insulin as what it did relative to before. You're basically teaching the body to be able to take in sugar without as much help from the pancreas, essentially. So without as much insulin. So this is all. If this doesn't mean anything to you, this is a good thing. So not only do you have more real estate, but you're also teaching the muscle to be more sensitive to pulling in that sugar. And in fact, after you work out, you don't even need any insulin. If you have a hard workout, those work muscles essentially are going to be able to pull in sugar without any aid from insulin. You don't need any insulin. It doesn't even go through the insulin channels. It goes through something called the GLUT4 receptors. And yeah, just think resistance training, more muscle mass, so more real estate you can basically just store more, and then also better uptake of sugar with trained muscles. Include protein and fiber at every meal. And people could say fat as well, because fat's going to help to reduce the rate at which sugar enters the bloodstream, and this is going to help to better manage blood glucose levels.
Yeah.
But I don't add fat in there because fat is just, it's very,
calories.
yeah, it's very calorie dense. So we're going to just leave fat out of it. Although you could, in theory, have a little bit of fat too. This is going to make a big difference. But ultimately, getting fiber and protein, both these things are going to reduce the speed at which sugar enters the bloodstream. And again, this is good because rather than getting a huge influx of sugar into the bloodstream, then the body has to
deal with.
It's got to deal with that, because that's, you know, if you're too low in sugar or too high in sugar, it's basically, they're both basically toxic. They're both lethal, it's essentially. So we've got to be in a happy range. So if you get too much sugar into your bloodstream, then your body has to figure out a way to deal with that. And thank God we have insulin for that. Mm-hmm. But it comes with consequences as well.
It does, especially over time.
Number 4, watch total glucose load. Okay, so what is glucose load? Glucose load is essentially just, it's the glycemic index times the total amount. Okay, so that may not,
sugar.
Yeah, that may not mean a whole lot to you, but just think of it this way. Just watch the amount of carbohydrates you're having and watch the type of carbohydrates that you're eating.
Of course.
So if you're eating carbohydrates from very fibrous sources, these are going to be low glycemic index. So less chance of glucose load overall because it's got a low GI,
mm-hmm.
which again, coming back to point number 3, it's going to be easier, or it's going to be, sugar's going to enter your bloodstream at a lower rate. So better for stabilized blood sugar levels. Mm-hmm. But also just watching, if you are having some level of sugar in your diet, maybe you're having something like honey, which is going to have a higher GI. Okay.
Or my Kodiak pancakes we mentioned in the last,
Do they?
Well, yes, definitely. I'm sure that there's sugar in it. I didn't really look very carefully. But you know what has sugar? The preserve I put on top of it.
Doesn't have sugar?
It does.
The preserve? Oh, it's like a fruit preserve?
Yes, it is. So anyway, I'm just saying.
Is this a preserve that you make? What is it, canned?
Preserve comes in a glass jar for, like, you wouldn't know that anyway.
No.
I was just saying that, I revealed in the last video that instead of having my fruit and my vegetable and the food that I make myself, I sometimes every day have protein pancakes.
In case you can't tell, although we are both your coaches, and we when it comes to certain aspects of our lives, we live a little bit differently. So this one has a little more struggling when it comes to...
I don't struggle. I love preserve. I'm not going to apologize for that.
No, there's nothing to be apologetic for.
Well, anyway, so that will raise your blood sugar much more so than any vegetable and meat, for sure.
Yeah, and just to put it back into context here, you can have, even let's just use, I don't recommend this, but let's just throw some table sugar in there. Yeah, it's going to raise the GI, but again, if you're having a conglomeration of food, obviously these Kodiak pancakes have some fat in them, mm-hmm. right? Do they have fiber?
Yes.
They have some fiber?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
And then obviously they've got protein.
They have protein, and then I make them with egg whites on top of them.
Okay, so this is
crank that up.
Okay, so this is going to have a much bigger difference on that preserve than if you just ate that preserve alone.
Indeed, yeah. And then beyond what you were saying, and you're right, even if a person, for example, eats vegetables and meat all day, and then has, let's say, 4 tablespoons of sugar in their coffee during the day, I'm pretty sure that still is better overall than somebody who eats, carbohydrates morning to night the next day, right? Mm-hmm. Anyway, sugar load.
Yeah, sugar load, right? Sugar load. So again, different types of carbohydrates are going to have a different glycemic index, as mentioned, which is just basically the rate at which they're going to raise your blood sugar level. But obviously, it makes a difference between if you have a high GI food, that you have white table sugar, mm-hmm. but you have this much of it, there's not going to be very much load. It's not going to affect your blood glucose levels very much. Mm-hmm. And likewise, if you have, let's say, a couple tablespoons of white sugar, and then you add some fiber to this, you add some protein, the total glucose load is going to be completely different. So it matters what you eat. It matters what you add to the whole conglomeration. So
absolutely,
all these things make a difference. And this just comes back to that point number 3, of course, is adding protein and fiber will reduce the rate at which sugar enters the bloodstream. So this is a bonus. So again, let's use something that's going to be a little bit more. Just one more example here. That's going to be maybe something that you would maybe think of if you have a banana alone versus say a banana and some yogurt or eggs. Yeah, sure. Eggs actually a great example because you're getting protein and you're getting some fat there. That's going to be completely different a glycemic load between the two. All right, final point here, number 5. Get at least 8,000 steps per day. If you're getting at least 8,000 steps per day, that's probably going to be, sort of partitioned across the day, and that's kind of what you want. You want to kind of move, not necessarily all the time, but on a somewhat frequent basis, so that again, this is going to help to better manage blood glucose, getting the glucose out of the bloodstream without having the pancreas have to do all that work. By you doing the work, you essentially alleviate the pancreas from its role, and it doesn't have to produce so much insulin. And this is better for a lot of tissues in your body, not just preventing fat gain, but for helping you just in general, whether it's inflammation or even blood pressure. We're going to go. We should probably see that for another video, but just reducing insulin levels will have a profound effect on your blood pressure. So anyways, we'll talk about that maybe in a future video. That may be a really good topic to address. And also I want to talk about stress and sleep, so maybe we'll save that for the next video.
Sounds good.
But let's get to the message of the day, and it is the following. Do you remember what it is? Only
losers
quit. Only losers quit. Okay, so remember, if you quit, you're a loser. No, really what we mean by this is that the only way for you to lose is to quit. That is the only way you'll stop progressing, is if you quit. So by definition, if you quit, you're just going to end up losing. That's what we mean by this. Okay, so you're not worthless if you quit. Okay, but you will definitely lose. So only losers quit.
So don't quit.
All right.
Don't be a loser.
Don't be a loser. Positive energy, positive vibes, believe in yourself, for the love of God, give some gratitude, and we'll talk to you all tomorrow. No, we won't. We'll talk to you in a couple days.